Before we start, can I have your name, age, gender, nationality, and place of origin, please?
So, hi, I'm Dr. Deevanshu Shrivastava, and I'm 36 years of age, and I'm a male, and my place of origin is in Gorakhpur, India.
All right. Also, if you could tell your workplace and how many years you've been working in that field.
Okay. So, I am an associate dean at School of Law, GD Goenka University, and this is my 14th years of teaching experience that I've come on from that point.
All right. In your opinion, how effective are current cyberbullying laws at deterring online harassment among young adults?
So, online protection and the legal protection surrounding cyberbullying, cyber stalking, cyber harassments has been on a very prominent side. With time, of what we see as a basic law of our land was the Information Technology Act 2000. But the new amendments that have brought in have been able to curb it. The problem I would suggest is not with the law, but how the implementation of that legal process has made it not that strong towards the point that we look forward today.
All right. Okay. Do you think social media platforms are doing enough to prevent and address cyberbullying?
I would say again, there is a policy guideline to all the social media handles. But I would complement the present social media legislation that are covering on to. So each social media today, and with by whatsoever name it does exist, do have a policy and a compliance department.
Yeah.
Whose primary duty comes up with what the government guidelines and how the government guidelines need to be initiative on to.
Yeah.
And believe me, they are on a very easy side to take it up. But yes, I would also, it is also correct on that saying that it can effectively be brought on to. But for the same, I guess better rule, a better process is also what the countries are looking forward for.
Definitely. Yeah. How do you feel about the balance between freedom of speech and enforcing strict anti cyberbullying laws?
So when we talk about freedom of speech, the Constitution of India provides the freedom of speech and expression in Article 19(1)(a), which is a fundamental right. And there has been a popular misconception going on that this is my freedom of speech and I can do anything, or my freedom of expression that I can write anything or say anything. But as all other rights, even the freedom of speech and expression provided by the Constitution is not an absolute right. It comes out with restrictions which are provided in Article 19(2), and which always have limited and in consonance to anti-cyberbullying. So one, I cannot exercise my freedom of expression, and that results into cyberbullying or cyber stalking of any other person or community for that matter. So they comes with a restriction, and I guess that restriction is also very important. Freedom of speech should not be seen in isolation.
Yeah.
It should be clubbed with what we generally see
Definitely.
up with the restrictions as well.
Yeah. Alright. In your experience, do you believe victims of cyberbullying receive adequate support and justice through the current legal system?
I would divide your question into two parts. Now, when I say that there are relief for them provided under the law, I would say answer is a positive. But when it comes to the treatment or other things, because uh, for a compensation or for a punishment given to a ledger or a person who is being abusing for that particular matter, you can punish that. But what about the mental
Exactly. A
structure
lot
of a
of
person who has
psychological
been a
effects.
victim? So unfortunately, law presently doesn't talk on that. But I guess that is a necessity that the victims should also be that how that one incident might be a very normal incident for a one who is into this habit of
Yeah.
victimizing the people. But the victim herself or himself, as we will always see, has to undergo that in one incident can have an everlasting impression on that particular person, which can definitely, I know physically is another thing, but mentally, unfortunately, law and the policy is completely silent on
Yeah.
that fact.
Definitely. Alright. What are some key legal distinctions between cyberbullying, cyberstalking, and online harassment?
Now, if you put all the three terms together, I would say that majors in India, you will find cyber stalking to be a punishable offense, as in
Alright.
for defined terms. So I can call them that they are sisters from the same mother. I can call them that these things do somewhere be classified classified into by a different nomenclature, but when it comes to the legal standards, all are kept under the ambit of cyber stalking. So whether it was, and we all are aware, we got a new three criminal laws in our
Hmm.
country. Prior to that, we had IPC. So IPC definitely defined it. IT Act 2000 defines it. But post the new laws, which we have the Bharati Nyaya Sanhita, which is the advance or the new format of what the Indian Penal Code used to have. So cyber stalking happens to be an offense, which whether we name it as a cyberbullying, we call it by harassment,
Yeah.
all these are covered under the definition of cyber
Cyber
stalking
stuff.
itself.
Okay. Okay. Could you explain the legal obligations school and workplaces have in preventing and addressing cyberbullying?
Now, when I divide that, I would take schools and is as we generally see as legally we come under the school education department,
Hmm.
which is a primary education and a school education
Yeah.
combined together, and the universities and all that matter post your class 12 would come under a higher education department,
Okay.
and both have a different ministry altogether. Time and again, looking at the ambit and the increasing
Hmm.
incidences of cyberbullying, the impact that has been causing to the young adults or the young students or the adolescents, time and again these departments have been issuing circulars, which are of a mandatory nature. Because if these are being curbed, I am very much appreciable that I can speak for state of Haryana. I am very confident when I speak for state of Madhya Pradesh, and specifically the central ministry. So time and again they have been issuing circulars that what is, and it believe me, it's not role. And I would really compliment you when you are through this exercise and awareness of a
Hmm.
sort that you are to do. Similar exercises is of each stakeholder,
Yeah.
so it was you as a student, me as a teacher, the school as its an administration. So it is all together when we hold our hands and communicate a better environment, an environment which is anti-cyberbullying, and that is where the departments and time and again have issued issues, the policies, the certain guidelines, time and again, in consonance to the legal provisions.
All right. Okay. How do privacy laws impact the prosecution of cyberbullying cases, especially when dealing with anonymous perpetrators?
And that is again a very important thing to understand. Now when I'm talking about that, how are the present legislation? So believe me, whenever such a cyber stalking or an offense of such thing comes and it is duly reported and leads to the courts, we have first of all a separate mechanism. So we have cyber thanas, we have at the police
Yeah.
or the investigation level where this has been taken and coming on to, and then when the case diary or other things have been reported to the courtrooms, the courts also adopt a very clear thing. Now, this can be certain thing which is in relation to a privacy, whether it is a young female adolescent or whether it is a young adolescent who has a great future ahead.
Hmm.
So the courts have also adopted a mechanism which is called as an in-camera proceedings.
In.
And in-camera proceeding means that it would only be the victim and the judge and none other than. It would not be a public proceeding. It would
Oh.
be an in-camera or certain things where only the people related to these cases are there. Also, when these cases would be reported, they would not be reported with the name. So the name of the victim, just to protect
Okay.
his or her identity and even the line with the future ahead, they keep that name as an anonymous name.
All
So there are provisions for the same as
right.
well,
Hmm.
and they have been very well executed as well.
All right. Okay. What is the process for gathering evidence that stands up in a court for a cyberbullying case? In your opinion,
Uh,
what would that be?
Okay, so when we come across, I guess this is the most important thing, because awareness is merely not talking about it, but when you
Hmm.
talk about the process, so any one of us can be, because cyber is that particular
Yeah.
open domain, whichever way. And I'll tell you, there were cases as well where online gaming is also not an out of it. So a game at a metaverse and a person who was playing in a metaverse was also, I would say, yes, she was bullied as being an athlete as well. And those cases or those evidences would always be that we need to be very aware at that particular time what needs a recording, what would constitute, what all evidences is required, both not only to protect yourself, because
Hmm.
we talk about the cases of cyberbullying. This is also utilized in a negative way where negative cyberbullying is said. And what I meant by negative cyberbullying, Anya, is that something which is a fake case of cyberbullying.
People just
So
do it for
people
attention
just
and
do
like,
it so that the other can be bullied. That's why I'm calling it a negative cyberbullying. That
yeah,
a person, two persons, or many persons were there on that cyber world, but a fake allegation was kept onto, a fake case was made in order to make that particular person to be responsible of such
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So evidences on both the parts is very much
Hmm.
required. And the good part that today when we see, and it's not merely like we are
Hmm.
online interacting right now on a particular online medium, these all things comes with encryption, decryption, and a particular domain name and IP addresses is being shared onto.
Yeah.
And these brings us to the following evidences in a cyber bullying case or a cyber stalking case.
Alright. Okay. Are there any landmark cases that have influenced cyberbullying laws significantly, and what can we learn from them?
That again, I'll say there have been many cases, and through our talk today, I would also like to initiate this that we should report these things. I know the reporting and certain things would not only be for what has been done, but by the same fact, we can even prevent future such cases if we are reporting all of these things. Now, two cases that I can prominently bring on to. One is the landmark case called as the Shreya Singhal versus Union of India 2015 Supreme Court judgment. And believe me, this was the Shreya Singhal was a law student at that time. It
Hmm.
was her particular case that not only led down the Section 66A of IT Act being unconstitutional for being vague and infringement of freedom of speech. I am also reminded of a wonderful case which is Rini Johar versus State of Madhya Pradesh, which is a 2019 judgment. And believe me, why I'm saying this case is very important is because this case recognized cyberbullying in the workplace context and affirmed that the existing legal provisions could be applied not only to combat online abuses effectively, but also to create awareness among all of the society members.
Okay. So usually when people go to file cases, some usually back out because they think that they won't have that much power against the other person. What do you Why do you feel people do that usually?
I'll tell you, this is again the point of a social stigma that we are talking about. And Anna, this is not only true for what we call as cyberbullying,
Hmm.
but this is also more of any of the offenses which we generally call it. It is a very petty offense. Why we shall
Yeah,
go to the courts and
exactly.
why should go to the police stations and specifically those things. Now, the time for today has changed and changed a lot. We do not have the same police mechanism. The police mechanism is also equipped, and as I was stating, we have dedicated cyber thanas, the dedicated training for the police personnel, and it's not merely that an offense has today happened and I or you should not go and report it. As I said, it is not merely for our offense that has happened to us, but also with the offenses that it may stop a particular thing. I'll give you a small example. Today, many of us use mobile phones
Yeah.
and we get calls which are spam calls.
Hmm.
You recently saw what Airtel did, that they are blocking spams at their own end,
Yes. Yeah.
which is free of cost. Now, we use apps like Truecallers. We use app where we get a call, okay, this is a spam call, and
Yeah.
people have reported it. And after a few reporting, that becomes red in color.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, the point which I'm trying to make out here, that if those previous 10 or 20 or people who wouldn't have marked it as spam, today I would not be unaware of a fact that this would be a spam call for me.
Yeah.
So just to take that step to mark that particular spam, I guess we can save what we can do it for ourselves and also the society. So
Yeah.
I personally, through this particular medium, would urge as well that if any of such offense, whether in the cyber world or in the real world, please have this habit of reporting that. And for that matter, even the police personnel have, just to beat that stigma that who should go to a police station and what all such things, the concepts of zero FIR, the concepts of online filing of FIRs have been incorporated very well in our systems as well.
Hmm. Okay. If possible, I'd appreciate it if you could take the last 2 minutes of the session to summarize the key points discussed and provide any additional expert comments or suggestions to enhance cyberbullying preventions and legal frameworks.
So, just to club or to just conclude to what this session was all about. So, we in detail had a word of what exactly is cyberbullying,
Yeah.
how was the legal landscape behind it, We even tried to focus it towards how the young adolescents, or the young adults as we popularly call them, kids in this school, which is more than a primary education, towards to what and how
Hmm.
they're taking forward. What is the role of school as institutions? What is the roles of we as peers?
Yeah.
And what is the role of both of us on that part, which is a student and a teacher for that matter?
Yeah.
Believe me, cyber world is not a domain which differentiates between who is using, whether it's a student using it or a teacher using it. For that matter, even of these much experience and everything, even I can be a victim of cyberbullying. So there is no particular bandwidth that who on the other side is going to cyberbully whom. Believe me on when I say that yes, the legal provisions are very, I would not say that strong as well, but yes, from time and again they have
But
updated
yeah.
themselves. It showcases the flexibility as well of the
Hmm.
law.
Yes.
Yes, the police personnel, the investigation agencies are now being equipped with a matter of fact, matter of time, they can get into the system, decrypt, encrypt the particular conversations, locate the IP addresses, and many things for that matter.
Yeah.
I would also agree to the fact that yes, this has also brought more of the offenses happening, as we are more relying on technology today,
Yes, definitely.
and therefore we are more exposing ourselves. So I'll say that and just to add one final thing, and it's a request that whenever we are there, please, whichever device we are using, it can be your mobile phone, it can be your laptops, your desktops, your iPads, whatever it is,
Hmm.
please have your active firewall settings activated. Do not use untrusted websites. I would also insist of having good anti viruses which you can have. Have your defender softwares on. Try to have this habit of not using your password for a longer time.
Yeah.
Keep changing your passwords. Um, Making it on a very strong thing. Do not disclose your OTPs. I guess that's a basic
That's a
that we can talk
yeah.
about just because the thing are there. Under whatever circumstances. And my only request to the schools or the management for that matter is that we need to conduct exercises more often. Any new thing which is coming onto, because again, the cyber world is developing with new youths and boundaries as well.
Yes,
We
definitely.
saw the COVID times, which made compulsory legal education, and that invented or advented the concept of online teaching
Yeah.
as a mandatory part of it. And these things in together, Anya, I would say that yes, such sessions, such talks, such awareness things would always be helpful and help you to talk about many more things.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely talking to you. All right.
Same here, Anya. All the
Thank
very
you.
best.
Bye bye.